Welcome, the Juicy Life podcast. Anna Malus Kitzman here with weekly dose of inspiration, motivation, thought provocation, all with the goal for you and me to have the most fulfilling, the most aligned, the most juicy life. I'm so excited for this episode. This is a first episode from a mini series I was planning and I'm planning to do for months now. And it's based on my obsession with this idea and overall trend that I hope is growing of women over 40 not being shy, not stepping into the shadow as they are turning 40 and starting to be more mature, but they are actually stepping into the stage. They are present on social media and they are sharing incredible wisdom, knowledge they acquired for all these years. And they're just so inspiring and are adding positively to the conversation, creating new ideas, new inspiration, motivation for others through their platforms. And today, my first guest from the series is Julie Turkel. She is a branding and brand licensing expert with 25 years of experience in structuring licensing partnerships, building e-commerce platforms, creating partnerships, framework, advising brands on acquisitions. And she's also a writer, a book author. So I'm so excited for this conversation. Julie, I met her, I started following her on TikTok a few months ago, and she's one of this women. She brings incredible wisdom, knowledge about branding, brand licensing, pop culture, connects those dots between branding and marketing and business and pop culture for us on her platform. And yeah, brings just incredible education and an intellectual spin on what's going on in business around us. So I hope you will enjoy this conversation. And as usual, until the next time, love and light, a little bit of shadow. Do not look for external validation. And please do not be shy and do not step into the background. If you are a woman over 40, please step on the stage, share your wisdom, share your expertise with all of us. Welcome to the Juicy Life podcast, Julie Turkel. I'm so excited to have you here and talk about, obviously, you, brand licensing, branding, and your TikTok stardom.
Thank you.
But let's start from the beginning. I just would love to share with everybody how you started your career in brand licensing, because I think it's just like an amazing story with Nate Berkus and how you kind of have this bold courage and entrepreneurial spirit and how your story in branding started.
Sure. So, well, interestingly enough, I moved to New York City after college and I was pre-med in college.
You're pre-med?
So I was planning on being a doctor, although I knew at the time when I was graduating that I didn't want to go to medical school or be a doctor, but I had a lot of doctors in my family, so it just felt like the right thing to major in, and I really enjoyed what I studied. But I had a professor in psychology who was like, "Hey, I know you're not going to medical school. I have a colleague at Columbia who is trying to recruit good students for this new program." And it was, I graduated in 1992. So I'm, not a spring chicken here. And it was this program in communications, computing, and technology before we had the internet. Like it was
Okay.
not,
Yeah.
it was like back in the day when we had like America Online, you would dial it with like, you would hear it dialing and it would like make that sound and that graphic. So I went to study with this professor at Columbia who had started this program. They paid me to go to this program, and all of my classmates were professionals. The classes were at night, and one of my classmates worked at Nickelodeon and created the television series Blue's Clues. And I just thought that's the coolest thing. Like I was like, oh, I'd love to work for Nickelodeon. It was part of MTV. Like I'd love to go work for that company. So I went, because of my school was at night, I interviewed for jobs for the day. Like I was free all day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working retail. And I just went to Nickelodeon and interviewed with every person that I possibly could there. And I ended up really just getting along with somebody who was very senior in the licensing consumer products department. So that's how I got into licensing. Like just, I wanted to work in Nickelodeon and my boss did this. So this is what I learned.
I just want to jump in here and just say what a amazing courage and, like several years ago to do that, to not go with this pre-med being a doctor, which was probably such a pressure and such a valuable occupation as it is now, and just to choose something that speaks to your heart and your soul,
Yeah.
I'm getting chills.
Yeah.
Just a
Because it's
point here.
interesting. Yeah. Because yeah, I mean, one would say, like, wait a minute, you went through 4 years, we paid for this like, and you're not
Yes.
even going, like, I knew in my heart, probably from the beginning, but I also knew that I needed the structure and I wanted to do well in school. So, like, it
Yeah.
really helped me, I guess my parents didn't waste their money sending me to college like I studied in college, like
Exactly.
I was very focused on achieving something and having some kind of career. I was teaching assistant, so but yeah, to get to the end of that road and be like, "Nope, this isn't for me, and I don't know what is, but I'm just gonna follow, like, the breadcrumbs,"
Yes.
basically.
Mhm.
So, ultimately, when I decided to leave corporate licensing, because when I worked at Nickelodeon, like, I did if you Nickelodeon's, partnership with Mattel was, like, the largest source of revenue to the whole company, and that was my account as I kind of rose in the ranks there.
Mhm.
I learned this really incredible business model of licensing, but I wasn't particularly interested in it for a long term career corporately or even my career at all. So at some point, I jumped the corporate ship and I was going to see a therapist basically to try to figure out like I really wanted to do something creative. I felt like I was in New York. There were all these designers and fashion brands and things that I was inspired by personally. And like, what career could I have that would allow me to be part of that world? I didn't study fashion and I didn't really want to study fashion.
Yeah.
I was walking down the street and I ran into an old friend of mine. I wasn't working. I was making no money. I had shopping bags and I ran into this old friend of mine and she was like, what are you doing? Like, I'm carrying these bags. She's like, you're not working, you're shopping. She's like, you should find a way to work with some of these designers that you love so that you could at least get a discount. Like, she said it to me almost like a criticism, but the moment when she said it, a light bulb went off like, why don't I start approaching like designer brands that I love and see if they're interested in doing licensing? So I went home and I had this catalog in the mail from a designer that I loved. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go to the store and I'm going to ask him if he's interested in doing a deal with Target or like some type of mass collection and just pitch my knowledge, pitch my skills, just
Yeah.
cold.
Yeah.
So I did
Cold
it.
turkey.
Yeah, I went into this store in Soho and I asked to speak to the owner and I was like, "Hey, I come from Nickelodeon." Like I just like, I was in sweatpants. He was like, "Yeah, I'd love to take a meeting." So I scheduled I went to my old boss who also wasn't working at the time and I was like, "I think I have this cool thing. Do you want to come with me?" And she came with me and we met with him. I'm not going to say the name because it wasn't Nate Berkus. There was somebody before Nate Berkus that I want to talk about. But anyway, it was a big household. He sold his company multiple times. Everybody knows his name. So anyway, after that meeting, he said, send me a contract. And that's how I got started in this business of working with creative brands and designers and personalities, founders, whatever you want to call them, helping them grow through partnerships with retailers like mass retailers and manufacturers. I started mostly in the home space, but I'm not specifically excluded to working in
Mhm.
that space.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then the Nate Berkes, so you saw him on Oprah
So I
and
used to work from home and that was like my one requirement is that like I like to work from home to be able to like just Swiffer while I work or just like do the things I like to do from home, multitask. I was watching Oprah. I had the volume down, but I looked over and I noticed he's very cute. So I was like, oh, I'm going to
so
turn the volume up to
handsome.
see this person. Yeah, so cute. So at the moment when I turned up the volume, she was saying, Nate Berkus, Walmart needs you. And so I was like, okay, I'm watching this. Then my phone rings. And it's my mother. My mom's like, oh, I've been meaning to tell you, you need to call this guy, Nate Berkus. And I was like, yeah, I'm just watching this. So I opened up the phone book or like called, 411, whatever, Chicago 411, whatever their,
Yeah.
answering service, whatever we used to do back then.
Yeah.
And I got the number for his office he was like, "Yeah, you should speak to I have a right-hand, like, manager, and she's in New York right now, like, on business, so maybe I should connect you 2." So I had a call with her, and then that night, I went to dinner with a friend of mine who used to date this guy named Nate, and he used to talk about him all the time, and as I'm talking to him, I was like, "Oh, I had this interesting call with this guy that I saw on Oprah," and as I'm telling the story, I'm like, "Wait a minute. Nate? Like, and he's like, yeah, I know who you're talking about. So then he picks up the phone. He's like, hey, Nate, I'm here with Julie. I know she spoke to, she called you today. Small world. We know each other. You guys should definitely connect. And so, yeah, I
Wow,
started,
let's
yeah,
talk about synchronicities first.
crazy.
Wait, is this guy the guy in the restaurant? His name also was Nate?
No, his name was Scott. So he's like
Okay,
my best friend from Nickelodeon. Actually, we met at
got it.
Nickelodeon and we've
But
been
it's like,
friends ever since. So we were just chit-chatting and
got it.
he, hey, what are you up to? And he's like, hey, what are you up to? And I was like, oh, by the way, I had a call today with this guy. He's so cute. His name is Nate. He's a designer. And as I'm saying this, I'm remembering that my friend Scott used to date a guy named Nate. So my brain is making the connection and he's making the connection as I'm telling the story. I didn't even get past the story. I didn't get the full story out because he knew exactly who I was talking about. And then I was like, wait. So then he was like, oh gosh, I've got to pick up my phone and call Nate and tell him to, yeah, of course, like he should hire.
Let's just talk about a couple of things. Like the synchronicities are there. If you choose your soul purpose and kind of calling of your heart, the universe, whatever you call it, the God and the spirits are going to support you. And that story is just example of it, of that, your story here.
Yeah, both. I mean, even the story of running into my friend and her criticizing my shopping, it was like ding, ding, ding. That was the that was the light bulb moment.
Yeah, and you being present to it, open to it, and not taking it as a criticism, right? And blocking it, but saying, "Well, this is like this is idea there." But then I also want to just talk for a second about your courage and this just boldness and entrepreneurial spirit in doing it and doing all these steps and just cold calling, stepping in your sweatpants and talking to potential making potential deal happen. And, to anybody who thinks that those times are over, I actually think opposite. Like we have such an amazing communication, access to each other, DMs, and I think we're more connected than ever. And doing moves like you did, right? I think it's obviously we cannot get reach to and reach everybody, but even I myself, like I'm nobody. And a couple years ago, I just reached out to. I don't know if you are familiar with Dry Bar,
Yeah,
the
of
founder
course.
of yeah, the founder of Dry Bar, and I DM her and I was like, "I have a business idea. Would you give me 15 minutes so I can present it to you and you can give me any feedback?" And she was like, "Yes, of course."
Yeah.
Like situations like this. So I just love your courage and how you just made it happen. This is what it's called, making things happen.
It helped that I was so young at the time and I didn't have kids and I didn't have like, hadn't lived a complicated life at that point. So
Yeah.
it was a lot of naivete with excitement and just following my creative ideas. So, now like, with as a parent and having, whatever, I'm getting old and all that, look, when you have those types of limiting beliefs that just you naturally pick up as you pick up more responsibility and experience in life, it becomes harder to see all those possibilities.
Yeah, but I would argue because even your presence or TikTok and have this courage to be there on that stage, right? Like at later, more mature time of
Yeah.
your life, right? When let's be honest, like social media is ruled ran by young people for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's continuation of that courage and entrepreneurial spirit and using new media and new channels and new opportunities.
Yeah, definitely.
So
I definitely would describe my experience of getting on social media to be a very similar kind of like flow
yeah,
state.
yeah,
Yeah.
you see again, yet again, you see opportunity, right? So let's talk about this opportunity because this is something that that's why I was so excited to talk to you, not because you're just so interesting and have so much incredible knowledge you were sharing there, but I'm just obsessed with this idea of more mature women over 40 being on social media, sharing this wisdom, sharing this knowledge they have, and just really not dimming their light and going into the shadow, which, a lot of societal structures and what society tells us would put us in that place of the shadow. And I love that you are kind of doing an opposite thing. But tell me how it is being an influencer, a TikTok star, a mom. How do you find inspiration? How do you find topics to talk about?
Yeah. So prior to being on TikTok, obviously I'm in a marketing field
Right.
and whatever new marketing thing that people are doing is something that I need to know a lot about and probably use for myself. That's always been part of my kind of philosophy, like having a great website before every business had a website or, whatever tool. I found it incredibly difficult. Instagram was that before TikTok for me, and I found it really, really, really difficult. And I had a client who was an artist who had a few 100,000 followers, and she would always like I would always be like, "I'm so bad at Instagram. I'm so bad at taking photos. I'm so bad at this. I'm so bad at this." And she would, say like, Stop talking to yourself that way." I realized I was like actually sort of I didn't want I wanted sort of an excuse to not use social, like, I'm too old for this. This isn't my I wasn't born with this.
Like a
I
slight
wanted an
self-sabotage.
Totally. I wanted an excuse to basically opt out of social media. And that was what I had sort of branded myself as, somebody who's not good at taking pictures. I'm not good at video. I'm not good with any of this. I don't know how to share, I don't know where whatever it was. So my daughters, I have two teenage daughters, and everybody, as a mom, you're like, oh, you can't have a public account on TikTok. Like, that's the rule, right?
Yeah.
They find a way to have a public account on TikTok. Like, that's not my parenting has always been like, all right, do what you want to do, and let's see what if it causes trouble, we'll dial it back. So
Yeah.
my kids, at first it was like, yeah, you can only have private accounts on TikTok, but then I knew they were creating public accounts. So when one of my daughters, my older daughter, was 12 or 13, she had this video that was going viral. It was just an outfit. And so I didn't have a TikTok account. So I was like, all right, this is the point that if she's getting followers, and like, rather than say you need to shut this down, I'd rather just see what I'm afraid of and go on TikTok and figure out what's happening here. So I started just checking on her account and reading the comments, but then I was scrolling a little bit and I realized there's people on TikTok sharing information sort of similar to my field. There's a woman who is like the crisis PR woman, like
Uh-huh.
Molly McPherson or whatever her name is. And whenever there was like some type of PR crisis, people would tag her and be like, Molly, what do you think? And I thought to myself, well, I wonder if anybody would want to know what I think about some of these brand collaborations. So I started to kind of like scroll around thinking about what that would look like for me. And I was paying attention to the conversations that were happening. There was a conversation happening around the influencer Ariel Charnas and her brand Something Navy, and
I remember
it
that story.
closed, and all these
Mhm.
people were talking about her. It's gossip. It was mostly gossip, people wanting to make themselves feel better by
Yeah.
watching somebody with a huge platform and a lot of money fail. So, I was reading the same articles that they were reading, but I had a perspective on why her brand failed from a business perspective, from my experience. So I just was like, I'm going to record a video of me talking about what I think happened from the business perspective. And it did well.
Mhm.
So then I was like, oh, this is how I'm going to show up here. I was comfortable. I'm comfortable talking to the camera about something that I like to have these conversations. There was nobody in my industry, no colleague of mine could sit around having this conversation.
Yeah.
Literally. They
Yeah.
wouldn't care, they wouldn't know. I didn't have any friends that cared. So then you get on TikTok and you find all these people that do care about having this conversation. So then I was like, and unlike Instagram, it's an actual conversation that you're having.
Yeah.
You're
Because people
dialoguing off of
comment,
other, like,
people respond, people ask you questions. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, in human design, I'm a generator, which I guess means that I respond to what gets served up to me. Like, I filter it out and decide, am I moving in this direction or am I moving in this direction? So TikTok is great for that, because if somebody's talking about something and I think I have something to add about it, then that's what I'm going to do. Instagram is, I'm going to wake up today and decide what I want to tell people
Yeah.
is going on.
It's more
I can't,
one-sided channel. Yeah. I bet
no one likes, no one comments. It's like, no.
yeah, it's like a dashboard or pretty pictures, right? Like a
Yeah.
more elevated and robust Pinterest. Totally agree with that. I bet in human design you also have an open throat.
What would that I'd have to look it up. What would that mean? Or would
It
it just
means
be
the connection, like a that represents throat. So a connection from like a upper squares, upper triangles to the heart.
well, there's a couple things that have happened, like, in my life that lead me to believe that I'm not so sure if it's always been that way.
Yeah,
Maybe. But before getting on TikTok, I remember going through this period of time. It was as we were coming out of COVID, where I lost my voice for like a very long period of time. And I would wake up coughing, like clearing my throat, chakra. Like it was happening regularly, like cyclically and regularly, where I would go through these bouts of waking up in the middle of the night, having to really clear my throat. And that was before I started my TikTok account.
Maybe it was clearing the channel there, so you can
Hmm.
finally start speaking.
Yeah.
I love that story. Yet again, I'm just coming back to this idea that you just like have this courage to step in there and do something different, do something new, do something your way, right?
Hmm.
But let's talk about more about what you talk about on there. So it's mostly brand licensing, right? I love how you connect the dots between like branding, brand licensing, pop culture. I think you
Hmm.
definitely can see your passion and love for that there. But I also love that you show, a couple other sides of you, right? Like nobody's like a one-dimensional person, and you have a little bit woo-woo side. Sometimes you share something about fashion, sometimes design. Love that. But when it comes to brand licensing, like what are your or branding, like what are your favorite topics, or is it just this pop culture commentary? What is something that you really enjoy and to bring up?
I do love hooking into like popular topics on TikTok. I think also love to share my insights on how to get better if you're truly interested in doing licensing and being in this industry. I used to share like portfolio examples of presentations that I like and things like that. And I don't do as much of it today. And I think it's part of it is because there are too many it's I try to dedicate time like an hour a day towards at least thinking, if not creating some content and posting something.
Hmm.
And, I also come up with things on the fly. Like I don't plan things out. So there's just too much happening that's like topical, too many things that people are talking
Yeah.
about that I could talk about to get to the point where I'd be like, okay, I want to go back and talk about, a great pitch or something, how to secure a licensing agent or how these deals work, like that information stuff. I love doing those types of posts, but I don't have as much free time to just create that kind of content. I tend to I when there's a hot topic that's timely on TikTok, I prioritize talking about that first if I have
Yeah.
something to say.
Yeah.
So I love it because those types of posts do create a dialogue with people in the comments. And, it's great for the visibility and all that kind of stuff. But it's also just like really nice to see people actively engaging in a conversation about something that I, again, have nobody else to talk to about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's something that we kind of touched on before we started our conversation is the latest drama. And by the way, I love how you like take something that is like a drama on TikTok and you elevate it to make it more intellectual and put this business spin and this perspective on it. But even this latest conversation about copyrights, right? And this drama between makers, that was such an interesting story. And I just wanted you to share this couple of points you made about scarcity and about how the smaller creators behave versus larger brands. Would you mind talking about it, because I think these are such a great and important points, again, as the influencer world is booming. Definitely, I think it's
Yeah.
already there.
So it's interesting because also, if you think about it astrologically speaking, we're moving from the age of Capricorn to the age of Aquarius. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of these things are coming up because of that shift of, do things belong to individuals to capitalize on them? Or are there certain things that belong to the collective? Because on these platforms, we share stuff. And I think that's what's actually coming up here. It's a scarcity, some people having a scarcity mindset and also not in the mindset of like being in the age of Aquarius where we share things. So for anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, over the past couple of weeks, there's just been a ton of like arguments going on between creators, and they are centered around copyrights and trademarks. So in the latest one, there is a creator who has a huge platform and she shares recipes. Like that's the point, is like to share these recipes so people can make the recipes. And it's really a great, like, kind of pay it forward or just like abundance mindset to think to yourself, if I share this recipe and inspire other people to share this recipe and credit me, that's good for me, right? Like
Yes.
that builds my credibility, it builds my platform, builds my recognition, it gets, built, all those things. But then at the same time, everybody like there's specific creators that are trying to claim what's theirs. And like maybe there's some old school business people that might be in their ear saying, you really need to protect yourself because you're leaving yourself vulnerable to other people coming around and copying you. And maybe they don't quite know exactly what they're doing when they're doing it, or how best when's the right time
Yes.
to call somebody out for actually like infringing and creating a real problem for you. Like, are they impersonating you? Like, are they getting in the way of you making a living, having deals, selling products? Or are they just inspired by you and spreading the message?
Yeah.
So there was a situation where this creator with a really large platform shared a recipe for, what was it, Fruity Pebbles cake pops that was made
With
with
Fruity
Duncan
Pebble.
Hines or Betty Crocker cake. The recipe was literally take this cake mix that exists and is owned by a huge company, put a cereal on top of it that is owned by a huge company, and that's my recipe. And a smaller creator came along and it just was inspired, tagged her in the post and said, I'm inspired to create my own, and created her own recipe for it. And a fight ensued between the two. Like it was, but it's a lack of understanding coupled with this
Yes,
probably,
scarcity mindset,
yeah, and this
100%.
shift from,
Yeah, to kind of focus on this abundance, that this will help build my brand, my recognition of my name, right? Versus hoarding and this old mentality of protecting. And on some level, I kind of understand, right? Like you get to some level of recognition of your growth of your brand, right? You get some first deals, so you become protective of that, especially if it never happened to you, if it's something that you experience first. But I think it's really important what you were saying, to kind of sit down with it and analyze it from that perspective. And I think you're making a great point, right? Is this interfering with me doing my business truly, right? Or is it helping me grow it? Like just really analyzing it and reflecting on that.
yeah, it's also the content creators, some of them thrive off of this kind of drama and like getting
Yes.
people, so they just shoot from the hip. They just feel like they could just go on and create a video. Like the right thing to do would be, hold on, let me check and make sure, yeah, is this really impacting me?
Yeah.
And maybe call a friend, call a lawyer, like just do a little bit of research before you go on and just jump
Yeah.
to those types of assumptions and create this content. It's a very empowering to have this tool on our phones where we can just,
Yeah.
shoot from the hip like that, but it's very destructive as well.
Yeah. And why to do it is also because with this creator that was kind of threatening to take a legal action, right? The public that created this person, right, through their support, started a kind of a black backlash, right? And there was some come to Jesus moment for this person, for this
Feel
creator
very
because of that.
encouraged by the fact that people can actually use their discernment in these moments. Like
Yeah.
there's a time when, this assumption that because I'm bigger than somebody else, I've got all these people that are just going to support me because they follow me and they love me and they, will believe anything that I say. And I'm very impressed by
Yeah.
people's discernment and saying, are you kidding? Like everybody's just like, are you kidding? Like who can support that kind of behavior? And
Yeah.
I'm kind of, yeah, I'm kind of loving that.
Yeah. Yeah. People's court. Okay, let's talk about, Julie, some of your favorite trends you see in branding or brand licensing. If there's anything, you are as trend spotter.
Yeah, I guess.
So let's see, what are you seeing that you are excited about, or are you thinking it's a future, or we should be watching out for?
In general, I think the one thing that's just been happening in my business, like when I started in this business, nobody really looked favorably upon the licensing business. Like it was something that a few designers who were willing to go from the high end to the masses, who saw that opportunity or felt very democratic about design, were willing to do. It was also an industry. If you were a celebrity, it was when all else fails, then you could possibly create a product like, Suzanne
Yeah.
Summers and the Thigh Master and things like that, or like a model like, who's the one I'm losing, Kathy
Missy.
Ireland
Okay.
and her furniture collection. Like it was just something that a few people, like it was kind of questionable. And so I think one of the things that's been so exciting that, this younger demographic that is so obsessed with brands is that it's become, I think for a lot of these retailers and manufacturers, it's become almost a crutch for them like licensing. I don't want to say overdone, but I think we're kind of reaching to the point where, if you look at a brand like Pottery Barn and you used to know what Pottery Barn is, but now Pottery Barn just has a bajillion licenses. They have Hill House, they've got Love Shack Fancy, they've got Stony Clover, it's just
Yeah.
so many that we're kind of sort of getting to the point where this business of borrowing equity from other people, it's so great for growth and it is so creative and it is so appealing in so many ways. But you could kind of get to this point where it could dilute who you really are in the first place, or at least becomes very lazy.
Mhm.
So that's one of the things that I have my eye on, is just like to be more intentional about it going forward and not rely on it so much. Like there's part of me that thinks that Pottery Barn is taking all these licenses so that their competitors won't get those licenses. It's like that there are companies that used to buy buy a brand and
Yes.
then buy all its competitors to keep them from, selling to somebody else and competing with them. Is that I'm there's part of me that feels like that's could potentially be happening in the retail business when it comes to licensing. Like Gap, Pottery Barn, Target is now fully, like, I think they have 3 licenses for back to school. They're launching back to school in June before school's even over.
Yeah.
So I think it's amazing to see how the business has evolved and how popular it's become, and how after all these years of like trying to convince clients
Yeah.
to come on board or trying to convince companies to do this, that they're all convinced. But is it too much? The other thing that I also really love is how creative this business can get. Like I've been working with this auction house,
Mhm.
and just seeing all the creative, like, just I love it when I'm not working with Sotheby's, but like for instance, like Frame, the denim brand, did like a Sotheby's collection. And I just love the idea of these founders having brands and just really asking themselves, what inspires me personally? That's what I'm going to license, and having it be something random like Sotheby's or a hotel that they love, or just that sense of creativity and alignment, I guess you could call it, to me really excites me. I get less excited about brands like, I love Love Shack Fancy for what they've done. I think she's a genius, but
Yeah.
it's not new anymore. It's just not new anymore. It's
Yeah.
great. I know it does well, but like I'm done with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think, and we are coming back to this idea of, creating things from your soul and heart, right? And those collaborations should be really, really genuine, right? So it's not anymore like just developing product for sake of developing a product, but it really should come from like your interest and your passions, and something that you are actually into, right?
Yes.
Versus just creating it for, because I'm a celebrity, for example, and this is the part when I should be doing a product because that's the right. Like, I think Alex Errol is a great example. Like, she had such an acne problem, right? And that's how she kind of, I think that's how she, be by being vulnerable and talking about it and showing her skin and talking about how she feels even mentally about it. And now I think it's just such an organic and natural step that she has anti-acne line of skincare, right? So such a natural one. Also, by the way, I love how she promotes it, just nonchalantly
She's
using
so
it,
good with
not
she's
even
just
talking about it, like just like using it in front of camera, and we all see it that it's hers and she's using it, just perfection.
Yeah, she is so good at her job. Like,
Yeah, so good.
her content is amazing. The decisions that she's made to invest in brands, the space, yeah, the storytelling with her skin leading to that collection makes a lot of sense. And I definitely, I didn't mention that I am excited about creators and influencers developing product lines, and I think some have done them particularly well and better than others. And it's interesting because I've had a couple of agencies in the space contact me about working with their roster, and I've done some like presentations around it. And I'm very fascinated by that space too, because just because you have a platform, like if I think about Alex Earl versus like that Michaela Noguera, and
She's more makeup person, right?
yeah, and she's huge. I mean, Alex Earl has 8 million or so followers. There are creators who have a lot more followers than her that haven't been successful in the space. So there is a lot to be learned at looking at the difference, the way that the decisions that she makes and how she positions herself versus like somebody like Michaela, who has a product line. And I don't even think, yeah, I barely know her content, but I also like, we don't know what like, she does makeup all day long. She's like an expert. She's a massive platform, but like, I don't know if I know anything unique that she has to say in that space
Yeah.
that would make me want to buy her brand.
Yeah. I didn't even know that she has a brand. Oops.
Yeah, she does. I don't know
Yeah.
what it's called either.
So on
Yeah.
that note, is there is any collaboration lately or licensing deal that was done that is like besides Alex Earl that we just talked about how she does thing, and but is there anything that you are especially were impressed with or excited about or thought that this was well good, smart business decision, strategic business decision, and well executed too?
I think the Gap has done an amazing job at their turnaround and really understanding like their legacy was always they had incredible marketing campaigns back in my day. Their brand was fairly consistent, and what I think made their brand exciting was their marketing capabilities. Same with Target back then too, let's say 25 years ago. And I think lately what they've done with not only the choices that they've made with licensing, but just their marketing execution of it has been great. So that's one that I'm watching. And then of course now Target's coming along with, so like Gap hires Zach Posen and like starts positioning that. So Isaac Mizrahi is also of that same era.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm less excited about the Target Isaac Mizrahi thing, but I know that Target back in the day had these incredible capabilities when it came to marketing. So we'll see. But I think Gap hired Michael Francis, who was at Target at the time during their like real marketing heyday. So it'll be interesting. I'm interested to see if Target can really get back to being fully original and executing in a really original way in the way that I feel Gap has, or are they just going to do everything that Gap has been doing over the past couple of years since they started getting into licensing again?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that situation I have my eye on.
Yeah. And that's such an interesting one because I always feel for these gigantic brands, the legacy brands. It's such a, I think, hard platform and kind of hard business to turn around, right? With so much legacy, with such a gigantic moloch of the brand and company. So I was worried about a Gap for a minute, but it looks like they are turning it around. So it's just great to see. I think it's just like a great story. But let's see how it goes. Yeah. Okay. So last question. Is anything I know you're also a little bit woo-woo sometimes. I feel like if you would be a great doctor, but
That's so
also
nice.
you would be amazing, intuitive witch. And I think something that I personally love to talk about is using your intuition, especially in business. I think people don't think about using intuition in your business, and so many stories you told today are just example of this just intuitive hit. I'm going to go there, I'm going to knock on this door, I'm going to call, I'm going to do this, make this
Yeah,
choice. Even again switching your career or college direction early on, again that was your intuition. So I think it's just such a great example you're giving us there. But is there is anything in your daily life, in your business, in your everyday life, book, podcast, product, ritual you are obsessed with lately and you want to share with us? I always feel like we learn from each other. So what is it for you?
sure. Yeah. So one of the things I talk about on my TikTok all the time is my experience going to psychics. And
Yes.
I share the story. There's a specific one, Maria Papapetros. I've been going to psychics since I was back in my Nickelodeon days. One of my colleagues had a book called Psychic New York, and we both, just for fun, wanted to make appointments with all like the top
Yeah.
psychics written in the book. So we started going down the list, and Maria was on that list. So I started going to her before I started my licensing business. And I told this story on TikTok that when I went to see her the first time and I was really young, I don't remember anything she told me except for the words, "Don't worry, if you lose your job tomorrow, you will land your dream client." And I was consulting, and it was after September 11th in New York City. And I was consulting, and the next day I woke up and this company that I was consulting for said, "Hey, I hate to break it to you, but we've got to cut back our budget and we have to cut out all consultants." And that was the moment. I didn't tell this in the initial story at the beginning of the podcast, but that happened. And I remember those words, went out shopping, bought myself shoes. And that's when I ran into my friend.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've been going to her off and on for, I mean, after that one session, she moved to Greece or she moved around, and I didn't reconnect with her until years later. But now she's like close like friend of mine and somebody I talk about all the time. And she's in her 80s. She's still full-time practicing psychic. So she's my go-to in that space. I also have this membership that I joined, like, I don't know, I want to say it's been 5 or 6 years, called the Cosmic Body Collective with Danielle Page. She's an astrologer on Instagram.
I know of her. I think she wrote
Yeah.
a couple books.
Yeah. So I really like the app. Has a lot of meditations and just like daily downloads and notes, and she does these moon circles every month. It's either a new moon or a full moon. She does this kind of talk on astrology and an energy clearing. In fact, it was last night was the one for July.
Capricorn.
So I really like, I find it's a really good deal because if you join, you get access to those monthly, and you get all these meditations, and you get these just kind of like, she'll just get on and say like, I want to talk about scarcity, or, just whatever she feels like talking about. So I find that to be very valuable. The other book that I think about when I need to get my mind back in a good headspace is Joseph Murphy's The Power of the Subconscious Mind. Is just, just keep remembering that your thoughts really do create your reality. When I was telling myself I was bad at social media, I was bad at social media. When I stopped talking that way,
Yeah.
I wasn't so bad. So I not only that, I found something that I really liked about social media. So just that book, I think it's lengthy and it has a lot of stories in it, but the gist of it is like your thoughts really do create your reality, and it's just a lot of stories about situations where people have changed their lives through changing their thoughts.
I love that. I actually went to your psychic, by the way.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Okay, good.
She's an incredible experience. Like she just her energy, like her, how she talks with you. It is a journey of itself. It's like she's incredibly powerful. Yeah, but she just told me like, "While you're here, you can do it for yourself." I remember that.
I think one thing that I do talk about on TikTok from time to time is, especially I get messages from people who are really young who don't understand. You can go to a psychic and have a psychic predict all kinds of things, okay? And then you can hang your whole life on those details, right?
Yeah.
And you're basically outsourcing your decision making to somebody. Like it's just I some of the things that she says, it's like sometimes they make no sense, but also sometimes like somebody complained because they were like, she told me to write letters, like I didn't need to. But it's like, well, if she tells you to write letters, like what if you were to uncover something that was amazing for you for the rest of your life, like you discovered that you have a lot of power and can
Yeah.
change your life through writing letters. Like there's a reason why this stuff is coming up.
Yeah.
You kind of have to there's a trust fall you have to do when you go to see these people. Like somebody might say take it with a grain of salt. Fine, then you don't trust. But if
Mhm.
you trust, then you have to be very, like, I think one of the things that helps me is being open in my life. Like if somebody tells me something that I don't agree with or that doesn't seem to make sense to me or feels like more work than I intended, I'm open.
Mhm.
So I think that's just like a key part of whoever you choose to go to, is to be very open to how they practice and what they say,
Mhm.
and how and just be very open to how it applies to your life. Because leaving a session feeling disgruntled because you were expecting to hear the exact name of the guy you're supposed to marry and when you're going to meet him and where he is and where you need to be and what date it's going to be or what month it's going to be, or when, like all that. It's great when people tell you that stuff, but
Yeah.
it's also really great when you learn like life tools, like you leave a session with something that means something to you for your whole life.
Yeah. And the greatest psychics I ever experienced are the ones that are not like predicting and telling me the future, but build, rebuild. Because when you think about it, when you go to psychic, it's usually in the moments of doubt, right? Like you want this confirmation or reassurance. And the greatest psychics rebuild that for you. So they don't give you the answer, they give you the stamina, the self trust, the back trusting your intuition to, proceed in either direction, or, kind of giving you the self confidence back that you are missing at that point when you go to them, because that's why probably you are there.
Yeah. And some of the details that come up in a session might be, you don't need to hang so much meaning on everything. If they say the name of a person that you know through work, that doesn't mean you're going to marry that person. It just means that she's connecting, he or she is connecting, and they are around and seeing, what's in your life. And that's confirmation. Like it's hard to
Yeah.
grasp, especially if you decide to go to a psychic in the moment where you're having doubt and you just need to hear that reassurance. It's a hard thing to grasp, but I can't tell you how many times certain names have come up, or even names, initials of people that I might meet. And I've met those people, but I didn't marry them. But they were
Mhm.
part of my journey. Maybe I
Yeah.
learned something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. Julie, thank you so much for this conversation. It was amazing chatting with you, and thank you for all the education, intellectualizing pop culture, and teaching us about branding and licensing. That's actually how I initially found you, because I wanted to learn about brand licensing for my
Wow.
venture, and I learned so much from you. And even though I'm not doing and pursuing that project anymore and that company, I still really enjoy what you do and how you teach, and again spread this wisdom and experience again as a more mature woman. I think it's just such a something to applaud, and I hope there will be more of us
Thank you so
doing that.
much. Yeah,
Yeah.
really appreciate it. Love this conversation. And yeah, let's keep connecting.
Yes, and I'll link all your contact information. If there's anything you're doing now that you want to share with everyone.
I do strategy sessions for anybody who is curious or has something going on in their business where they either are contemplating how licensing or partnership strategies can apply to their business. I do these one-on-one strategy sessions. Some people use them because they want to get on social media and want some help in that regard, and just how to position their business, how to sell themselves better, their pitching, their marketing and sales materials. So, those are all at the link in to schedule one of those sessions. It's at the link in my bio. So,
I'll
you
share
know,
that. I'll share
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Thank you again, Julie.
All
Appreciate
right.
you.
Thank you so much. All right.